Hey everybody, Robin Thompson with The Powerful Practice. I am here with Ellen Ronca, and we are celebrating the successful launch of her program, Chronic to Cured. Hey Ellen,
Hello.
why don't you tell us a little bit about the program you've created and what you're helping people doing?
So my program is designed to be very high support for people who have chronic health problems of the sorts that doctors can't help with. We call those neuroplastic or neural pathway problems, which is to say the problem's not actually in the body anymore, if it ever was. And now it's a problem of neural circuits. And a lot of people don't even really understand the science behind that because it's so new. So my program basically explains how that works, how neuroplastic pain and other health problems start, and then it teaches them how to train their brains out of the symptoms. So it's designed to be very high support because I get a lot of folks who have quite a lot of systems of their body impacted. By the time they find me, usually their lives are pretty significantly impacted by it.
Yeah, so people are just kind of finding you online because it's like a growing area of interest or a growing topic in the market. Is that right?
I think people are finding me partly because of the marketing that I had done prior to actually creating this program in this format. Partly because I'm a psychotherapist and this has been my specialty for a while.
Hmm.
And because of trainings I've done and websites that I'm on a practitioner list, people find me that way. And then very often, if they have this very specific problem, chronic health issues, particularly chronic pain or fatigue, things like chronic Lyme, long COVID. People find me through searches that way. And then, I tell them about my program because I actually think it works better than actually doing individual therapy at this point. So,
We have one other client who's the same, where what we had to do was they already had a little bit of momentum going with their niche. And what we did was we created a program that just made it so much easier for them to serve all their clients and able to actually grow without adding more and more hours. How has the program format or the program approach with the curriculum and the community and the calls, how has that been for you in supporting your clients? Have you seen good stuff? Have you seen stuff that's been a challenge?
I've actually really enjoyed it. I should back up and just say that before I found you, I was already doing a program that was live, and it was like an 8 week
Mm-hmm.
limited series. So 12 total hours of FaceTime with me, but most of it was teaching them all the material that now is all uploaded in the classroom of my program. So I had run that quite a few times already and had been refining the curriculum, but the trouble I was running into is just marketing it so that I could get everyone to start at the same time. It was a total passion project. I had invested gobs of energy into it, but it was nearly killing me in that format, and I didn't really have the answers to that. I just knew that I couldn't keep doing it that way. And then I bumped into you online, and that solved a lot of problems. So what it did is it allowed me to teach the material one more time, record it all, and not have to keep teaching it so that now when I'm meeting with my clients as a group, I'm getting to answer really integrative, complex, specific, nuanced questions, is so much more satisfying for me. I didn't really want to keep teaching it. I like teaching, but what I really like is helping people apply what I've taught to their specific situation. And to me, that's just way more interesting. And I think it's more effective for them. So, and they can listen to the material whenever they want. And so, in the coaching calls, it's gobs of fun because people say, I listened to, X and such lesson and you said X and I'm trying to figure out how that applies to this. Or I had this big aha and that's the stuff I love. And then in the meetings, people are, oh my gosh, me too. Or, they're really supporting each other. And it's super exciting to watch that happen, honestly. It's really cool.
Very good. So it's made the program a lot easier for you to run, but at the same time, you're seeing a lot of benefits of people doing the self-study work and then keeping the interactive times for interaction, basically, the live times for that.
That's exactly it. Like, I got to another thing that I had been running into with the live. I say live, this is obviously live and it's actually far more FaceTime. But what I mean is the teaching component is now pre-recorded, whereas it had originally been live, right?
Hmm.
Um, but what different now is they can do that in their own time, and I got to expand it because one of the things that was driving me nuts is it's complex to heal from chronic health issues. A lot of people are told by their doctors they're not going to get any relief for fibromyalgia, for example, or migraines. The doctors have nothing for them. My program actually resolves that stuff. If you do what I explain in my program, you'll get better. But it's complex and it takes some work and
Mhm.
there's some nuance to it. And that's the stuff I love. But what I was finding in my private practice is one, hardly anyone was ever leaving my caseload because they're complex cases and I was having to explain all this during the individual sessions. And I got kind of tired of saying the same thing over and over
Yeah.
again, So that works better for me because I got to finally teach it in a way that was had all that complexity built into it, but in very bite-sized chunks that made it very digestible and in a very systematic way. But then their FaceTime with me feels a lot more meaningful because then they can, really talk about how it applies to them. So it's way more satisfying, I think, and way more productive for them. So it solved a lot of problems.
What was the thing you felt challenged by or struggled with the most when you were getting your program together? When we were helping you to do this, what would you say was the thing that was really a challenge, and how did
I
you overcome it?
Well, there was the hurdle of getting over. I had already formatted this whole curriculum according to how I had been doing it, right? And, I didn't really want to have to redesign it. And I didn't have to redesign the material per se, but how I was presenting it changed. Certain things changed because of the change in format. And I had to get over the like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't
Mhm.
want to have to do this. I had to get over that, but I like for that, I just had my eyes on the prize. Like, this is going to be better. It's going to have more longevity. Um, it's going to solve other problems. So that was one problem. The other is, frankly, it's time consuming to build one of these things.
What advice would you give, therapist to other therapist, to people who are looking at doing something like this? The person who is burned out right now, they're looking at the next year, everything's going to stay the same unless they do something different. What kind of a conversation would you have with that person if they were thinking about putting their own kind of program together?
Ooh, that's a fun question. Well, the first, I'll say I'm part of a Facebook group of therapists in the area where sometimes we talk about supervision kinds of questions, ethical questions, oh, insurance companies are driving me nuts kind of questions. And every once in a while I dip into that Facebook group and I have this like big smile on my face because most of what they're talking about is not relevant to me anymore. By the time I found you, I mostly wasn't using insurance. I was only using one insurance company because they were easier to work with. But because of that, I get less phone calls for obvious reasons. A lot of people need to
Mhm.
use their insurance for finances. If you have a niche specialty, I think this is a tremendous way to leverage that. I think one of the things that I was really frustrated by as a therapist is that I felt like I was at the top of my game in terms of what I was offering clients. But if you're in the insurance model, there's no way to make more than someone who's fresh out of school and just barely licensed, right? That really rubbed me the wrong way, honestly. Like, there's no way towards the end of your career to make more money unless you get off the insurance panels and charge a solid fee for service. And I think that's a legitimate model. But it's also out of reach for a lot of people. What's frustrating, I think, for the therapist is that I had this very specific niche that is really in high demand, but I could only see a certain number of people because if I'm just seeing them week after week, I was really frustrated by my reach. And I knew that as a person, I have a gift for teaching as well. And I felt like that wasn't being used or maximized. So I guess what I would say to other therapists kind of in the grind is that I think this is a way to sort of address all the kind of problems, like to really tailor your work to what you really love. If group work sounds satisfying to you, if teaching is, interesting to you, and you have a very specific niche specialty, So it does expand your reach. It does, you have to sort of, in the short run, be willing to sacrifice some your spare time to building the thing. But once you do, I think my outlook on how happy I can be, heading into retirement is quite a bit higher now because I'm not just in that grind. And it was really, I think, about a decade or even up to about 2 decades in my career, maybe 15, 18 years, people used to say, how do you do this as a therapist? And I say, I find it really fulfilling work. I have very intimate relationships with my clients. I feel like I'm really making a difference. But at a certain point, I just started feeling like it's cumulative and it's tiring. And I don't know if I can keep doing this for another decade. The whole psychotherapy versus coaching, the making that distinction, I think a lot of, I have to stop short of psychotherapy. On the other hand, so much of what I do in my psychotherapy sessions really could fall under the category of coaching. And particularly for me, with my specialty, there aren't enough people doing this anyway. There aren't enough people trained in this particular model
Mhm.
because it's so new. Not it's built on research that's only 1 to 2 decades old, and so it seems silly to like only be seeing, only having a caseload of 20, 25 people totally. It's sort of like, boy, it limits my reach.
Yeah,
So
because the market is hundreds of millions, really.
1 in 5, really, 20% of the walking population, anyone, has some kind of neuroplastic health issue, and they probably don't realize it's neuroplastic.
Mhm.
They're, doing this, rigmarole, wild goose chase with doctors trying to get a diagnosis, and that goes right down to like knee, back, shoulder pain, that kind of stuff, but also, migraines, fibromyalgia, all of it. I think there has to be a certain entrepreneurial spirit, right? Like you have to be willing to take some risks.
Mhm.
One of the things that I noticed is that while I was recording these videos, it's vulnerable. I'm putting myself out there. I'm using a lot of self examples because I have my own story with chronic pain and fatigue and
Mhm.
all. In some ways, I'd say it's not really for the faint of heart. I think it took some gumption to, say, I'm going to do this and commit to it and
Mhm.
back out of my clinical schedule somewhat to give myself some space to do it. But I really believe in what I'm doing. And I think the farther along you get in your career as a psychotherapist, we do really get refined in what we know and what we do. At least for me, my personality, I really like going really deep on one specific thing and being the person who knows everything about that thing. It's very satisfying. Maybe it's not for everybody, but I think if
It's
you're
not, but it is for some.
I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm it's definitely picked up my chin when the idea that more and more, like, I literally took exactly one new client since I started this program with you.
But not
Yeah,
for your program. You mean one new therapy client, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Sorry. Because I wanted to create space, right? But also because the whole point is to not be in that rigmarole anymore. And I'm still working with the cases that I had that I have a really good relationship with them. They're long-term clients because they're complex cases. And I really enjoy that. So the being able to be very choosy about who I work with solo is also very gratifying. Like I'm very picky. I'm picky about everything in my life. Really, it's not just clients and how I work, the setting that I work, but if you're picky and if you know what you like, you can make this be whatever you want it to be, right? I'm
Hmm.
working out of I get the shortest commute ever. I come down the stairs. I think it's the initial investment that you have to get over that hump of like there's going to be a lot of work to create something. But in terms of the kind of numbers that I want to reach with this program, I'm going to need some help with marketing and I think that honestly, when I found you, was one of the biggest things about that gave me the courage to go forward because that's the piece I just don't know anything about, and I didn't want to have to learn. I think I was pleasantly surprised that I'm not at all tech savvy, and I think that was one of the biggest obstacles to me figuring out how to do this sooner. Um, in fact, I had been working with a marketing person who was helping me with Facebook and that kind of thing. And I think she had even suggested me like putting the materials online, and that just felt like a massive obstacle that I just couldn't get over that hurdle. But your promise to help with like all things tech is what gave me the courage for that. And I will really say that I give you a lot of credit because I don't think I was one of your probably easier clients in that regard. There were a lot of hurdles for me in terms of tech, and I needed that. I could not have done this on my own.
Mhm.
Uh, I would have driven myself nuts through my computer through the window and other things.
It was a combination of helping you technically and then also persuading you wasn't that important yet, and keeping you on that straight critical path to getting you launched. That's the way I would put it. Well, this has been great, and thank you for the advice for all future therapists who are launching programs or thinking about launching programs. And I wish you all the best with yours and continued success. You're off to a great start. And so let's see where this journey goes for you.
Thank you.